This meeting is being held electronically, but we intend to conduct it similarly to an in-person meeting. Public comment will be via telephone or Zoom only. To speak during any of the public comment opportunities, please call 206-337-9723 and enter meeting ID number 934-6385-2907 or join via the Zoom link. This information is also available on the published agenda, in the public notices section of the city website, and on the broadcast of this meeting on CTN Channel 16. Chris, if you could call roll, please.
Not a problem. Please say here and from where you're dialing when your name is called. Councilmember Ackman,
Here, Ann Arbor.
Commissioner Broven,
Here from Ann Arbor.
Commissioner Flu-Welling,
Here, Ann Arbor.
Commissioner Altamaki,
Here from Ann Arbor.
Commissioner Hook. Okay. Commissioner Keeler,
Here from Ann Arbor.
Commissioner Lee,
Here from Ann Arbor. Thanks.
Commissioner Carpenter. I believe he is absent. Commissioner Zakar.
Here from Ann Arbor.
Okay. Commissioner Hutchinson has given his regrets that he will not be able to attend. Commissioner Liu,
Here from Northwood Township.
Commissioner Margolis, Lieutenant Mike Sherba,
Here from Tyrone Township.
and Commissioner Stupka is also absent. With that, we do have quorum.
Thank you. And I'd also like to welcome back Councilmember Dharma Ackman. Thank you. It's been a year, but we're happy to see you back, you and Erica flip-flop, and we appreciate you seeing you back here for at least another year. So
Yeah,
thank you.
it's good to be back. Hi, everybody.
All right, there are two items on the consent agenda tonight, approval of the agenda and approval of the minutes from November. Are there any modifications to the consent agenda? Seeing none, can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented? Moved by
I move to approve.
second by Larry. All those in favor, please say yes or raise your hand. All those
Yes.
opposed, please say no or raise your hand. The consent agenda is approved. Next up is public comment. This is an opportunity for persons to speak for up to 3 minutes. Again, please call 206-337-9723 and enter meeting ID 934-6385-2907 or connect via Zoom as described on the agenda. City staff will select callers that have raised their hand one by one using the last 3 digits of your phone number or the person's Zoom ID. In order to electronically raise your hand to indicate your desire to speak, please press *9 on your phone or select the raise hand button in Zoom. You'll hear an automated announcement that the host is allowing you to speak. When speaking, please move to a quiet area and mute any background sounds. Chris, do we have any members of the public who wish to speak?
Yes, I do see Adam Yashkevich. You will be promoted, and I will be giving you a 30-second head start when your time is almost up. The floor is yours.
Hi, this is Adam Juskevich from the 4th Ward. I just wanted to ask about, I was looking through the Safe Streets for All presentation, and I noticed it's talking about bike lanes on South Main, and it's got a few different sections here. It says Stadium and Scioto Church northbound only, William to Scioto Church northbound only, Ann Arbor Saline to Fieldcrest northbound only. I guess I was just a bit confused by that. First of all, I think Stadium to Scioto Church and William to Scioto Church, there's some overlap between those. And I guess my main question was, what's up with the northbound only north of Stadium? It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. So I'm hoping that that can be covered when that presentation happens. Thank you.
Thank you. Who else? Chris?
I see Lauren Bondurant. The floor is now yours.
Thanks. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. Well, Transportation Commission, I'm here tonight just to comment about something that happened to me on Packard Street last week. I was riding my bike last Tuesday morning along Packard just south of Stadium, and a driver in an SUV collided into me. Both of us called 911. The police interviewed each of us and made a crash report. Paramedics transported me to U of M hospital, where they confirmed I had broken 2 ribs in the incident. So I'm now in an unenviable position of recovering from my injuries, repairing, or actually replacing my primary means of transportation since my bike was totaled, and I'm navigating insurance claims processes. As a 4-season bike rider for over a decade, I know I'm lucky that the injuries I sustained in this crash weren't more severe. And as a dad, you might be hearing my toddler in the background. As a dad who regularly bikes his 3-year-old daughter to daycare along Packard, I'm beyond thankful that my child wasn't involved. But as a 5-year resident of Ann Arbor, I'm extremely frustrated by the city's plodding pace to make walking and biking around town safer, despite its stated goals to do so. I wasn't the only vulnerable road user, I later learned, to get hurt on Packard last week. City Council must prioritize safer streets for everybody. And I know I appreciate the members of this commission's work to move Ann Arbor forward on this. I'm not an engineer, but I think Packard's wide vehicle lanes should be narrowed to encourage slower vehicle speeds, and its painted bike lanes protected with bollards or concrete to make bike riding on it feel feasible and sensible instead of high risk. I know I'm in a very select population that can handle high risk and accept it. When I talked to my colleagues over this past week, many of them just shook their heads and said, of course, I would never ride my bike in Ann Arbor. The status quo on our city streets is unsustainable. Thanks for listening, and thanks for your service to move Ann Arbor forward.
Thank you, Lauren. Do we have anyone else, Chris? You're muted.
I see Molly Kleiman. The floor is now yours. I'll give you a 30-second head start before your time is up.
Thanks, Chris. Hi, everyone. It's good to see all of you commissioners again. For those of you who are new, I'm Molly Kleinman. I served on Transportation Commission for 6 years, 3 of them as the chair. Like Lauren, I'm calling about Packard and the fact that 2 drivers seriously injured 2 vulnerable road users in a single week on Packard. And as Commissioner Hoke pointed out to me, there have actually been many more vulnerable road user crashes, specifically on Packard, just in the last couple of months. Packard is one of the main routes to Ypsilanti. Packard is one of the most popular bike routes and one of the most popular bus routes in the city. And I have been just so frustrated by the pace, the crawling pace of mostly no change, honestly, along Packard, which we know is an extremely popular route and one that leads to some of Ann Arbor's poorer neighborhoods, some of Ann Arbor's more diverse neighborhoods, and leads again to our poorer and more diverse neighbor, Ypsilanti. And I know that lots and lots of work has gone into the transportation plan, has gone into prioritizing and deciding which roads should get what when. But in theory, we're doing quick builds now. And we could be quickly making changes. We could have already quickly made changes on Packard that could have prevented one or both of these crashes. And so I'm calling to speak for Packard and especially Packard south of Stadium, the wide, flat, open stretch where it is very easy for drivers to speed, whether or not they intend to, and where it really doesn't feel safe or all ages or accessible to ride a bike or even sometimes walk. And so I hope that as you're thinking about, and I know that mostly the commission, you don't have this power. I know mostly you're responding to things that the city staff bring to you, but you do have the power of a microphone. And I hope that you will speak for Packard and the many residents who rely on it. Thanks.
Thanks, Molly.
Okay, with that, I don't see any other hand raised. I think we are good to move forward. Thank you all for your comments.
Thanks to everyone who spoke today. Their comments are very valuable to us, as always. No emails in the packet this month. Next up, getting into business. First is the 2025 Transportation Commission Work Plan. So normally around the end of the year, we develop a tentative list of topics that we hope to cover throughout the course of the next year. So staff has updated that work plan based on suggestions received from commissioners and coordination with partner agencies. So we're looking for action on this item tonight. We'll take a vote to approve this list after we've gone through it and solicited some any other ideas from you all. This is before Luke gets into it, this is not intended to be an exhaustive or exclusive list. As other topics come up, we'll obviously add them to the meetings throughout the year, but this is at least a good start for 2025 for our work plan. So Luke, take it away.
All right, thank you. Sharing the screen with the draft list of topics on it. Like the chair mentioned, these are more of a reminder list, and the roughly expected time frame earlier in the year or later in the year that we want to bring these topics in. They're not really locked into any particular sequence or month yet. So starting from the top, where today we're going to have a review of the draft commission annual report from this calendar year. And we're looking to finalize and accept it in the January meeting. And also run the chair and vice chair election also. That's for the January 2025 meeting. The third topic we're going to bring is the next fiscal year policy agenda input. So we're a little bit running behind on that because city administration is already asking for input on the same topic. So we'll, I guess, communicate this one through emails for this round, and coming around about the winter time of next year, we'll move this item to be sooner in the year, so we line up with the city's overall policy agenda input. Also for information sharing, we'll schedule with police department to provide an update on their corridor traffic safety plan. Moving on to talk about the next group. Staff has been working on the capital project updates, and that includes the 2025 resurfacing and related projects. So these could include sidewalk gap fill and other things. So we already have some items filling up the list, and we're going to bring that to the commission in the earlier portion of the year. Traffic calming and speed management program, that has been an update staff has been working on. And we're looking to schedule a meeting with the subcommittee on that topic, which we're bringing a draft that's going to unify traffic calming program that's already in place, and adding in speed management process, and also school traffic calming toolkit, and a bunch of other updates. So the goal is trying to provide like one document to unify topics in this area, so that for residents there's a one place to get information, and also help staff to understand what program, what resources are available, so we can navigate and achieve the most, I guess, efficient way to deploy these measures. Quiet zone, that's for railroad. There's an update on that. We're trying to bring to the commission in the earlier part of the year. At this time, we're scheduling a study team with the university, Federal Railroad Administration, and MDOT to look at grade crossings. There's a field meeting staff is going to schedule with the stakeholder and the railroad. That's going to happen in the middle of January. So earlier in the year, we should be able to present some recommendations from that effort. Safe Street for All project. Today we'll have a relatively quicker update, and there will be a more detailed one to be presented by the consultant and in combination with staff. That is, there's a slight update on that. That one is going to be in the February meeting. Winter maintenance, hopefully by March or April timeframe, we'll have some lessons learned, some experience from this season, and then we'll talk about that. Nixon Corridor, that's the series of roundabout in combination with a couple of school properties, and that project will come to the commission also earlier in the year. Stepping into April timeframe, we'll talk about fiscal year 26 budget, and also get updates from the Get Downtown program, as well as DDA's project outlook for this year and next. Another public school updates. Our members have requested a couple of times to get updates on that. So the current plan is to have a city staff member to make a presentation on the collaboration with our public schools. And that update will likely be in either January or February. It's going to be earlier than currently shown on this list. By that time, around May, we're also looking to give an update on Miller Avenue project, which should already have several months into the construction by that time. And also Madison Transit Center for those members that have not heard about this. This is a University of Michigan initiated project that is in the Madison and the Packard area. There's a little triangle shaped land, and that parcel is being investigated for a future transit center to service the transportation needs to primarily students that will be housed under in the university dorm buildings that is under construction right now. Into June timeframe, we'll be looking at the commission's bylaw review. And also we'll provide a more detailed update on the Safe Street for All project. And this update is going to be focused on the near-miss analytical task. And also the multi-lane street reconfiguration update. And on this one, currently there's an active request for proposal being advertised, and the due date for proposal is in the middle of January 2025. I'll also attempt to bring some update about the university's 2050 campus plan. Into the second half of the calendar year, we'll provide an update on the CIP, Capital Improvement Plan. We might be looking at a different time frame on that. If we talk about this topic earlier in the year, we can provide an update to the next year or 2 years worth of projects. If we do this in the second half of the year, we'll be able to report more as to the status update to the current CIP. North Main Street Transportation Study, that's another project. We have an active, I'm My apology on that. We are working on a request for proposal at this moment. We anticipate to publish that RFP in January. Arbor South Development Project. This one is a fairly sizable, significant project in the State and Eisenhower area. City staff has been working with administration on some very high level area plan, some very high level estimate of transportation needs on site and off site. And being an area plan, there are a lot of assumptions into the estimate. And hopefully in the middle of the year, we'll be able to get more movement on the project, on the development, and present a more detailed update to the commission on that. Stepping into August, that's our typical Vision Zero program annual update. We'll look at the effort in the past year, review crash data, and provide that update to the commission. The State and North University project, we should have some movement in that also in the second half of the year. State Street in the block from South University to William, that's where we're looking to provide improvement into bicycle facility as well as an exclusive transit lane on that block. And that project will also extend to the North University portion in the next calendar year. So we'll be bringing an update on that. Tonight we'll have Debbie from University of Michigan Transportation Research Institute to give us an update. And we are going to look for another update in the second half of 2025. They're moving things very quickly around town here. We want to also provide another public school related update in the second half of the year. Then near the end of 2025, we'll square down the meeting dates for 2026 and also start working on the work plan for the next for the next calendar year, as well as summarizing the annual report and the policy agenda input. So that is the current plan. And if there's any addition or comments, we'd be happy to accommodate those.
Yeah, any comments or especially additions to the list we've got here? Yeah, Matt.
Thanks. I'd like to just make a note that maybe sometime in the next year, the RIDE would like to bring forward a discussion about dedicated bus lanes. I don't have a specific date for you now, so if we could just pencil it in as a floater, it'd probably be in the second half. But I look forward. I'll let you guys know as soon in advance as I can when we have something to present. Thank you.
Thank you, Pete. We may have lost Pete, or at least he went. There you are.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Sorry for the audio difficulty. I do have a couple things I'd like to add. One of them is that I think the contract with Spin was approved for 1 year. That's how I understood it from the council meeting, and I guess I would like to check on their progress before we approve them for another year. So that should be sometime in the spring that we would want to discuss that again.
Yeah, good catch.
I'd also like to discuss our progress on lane reconfigurations.
I think that was in June. Or did you have something more detailed? But I think in the June meeting, I mean, it could move around, but I think we had multi-lane street reconfiguration update.
Oh, you're right. Good. I'm sorry, I missed that. Thank you. Good.
And if we can move
Those
that,
were the
up, we certainly would. I think that's one of the, hottest topics we have going at all. So if we can move it up, we will.
One other thing, the AAPS topic that's scheduled for May. Is this specifically about the, transportation at their schools and the upgrades that they're doing to their buildings? If so, that seems like it needs to be much earlier in the year. They are moving ahead with designs, and I don't want to find ourselves coming in to just see what the designs are going to be. I'd like for them to hear the community input before the designs are finalized. So if that means it needs to be done earlier, let's try and prioritize that.
Yeah, let's see. Luke, I think that topic is certainly something among the topics that we would like to include in this meeting. We do obviously, for have any value, we'd want to have somebody from AAPS present. So I know that Chris and Luke, have been and will be trying to arrange for that. So again, we put it in here in May, but I think there's a hope that we could maybe get something lined up earlier. I don't know if Luke or Chris have any updates on that.
Yeah, so far we did not get any confirmation from the schools to commit to come and present. So we are looking for Cyrus Nahidi. He's a previous commission member. He's on staff now. Cyrus has been working a lot with schools on city reviews and capital projects related stuff from the city side. So Cyrus is planning to come to the commission to make a presentation earlier in the year. So I think it's either January or February.
Okay, then maybe we can arrange for that, for him to accept feedback and feed that back to his contacts with AAPS. Yeah, I think we should plan on doing that.
I just want to make sure I'm clear on what you said, Luke. AAPS has not committed to attending any meeting or giving any presentation at this point. Okay. All right. Well, disappointed. I'm disappointed, but not surprised. And what makes us think that they are going to come eventually in May or any time? Do we have some reason to think they might agree to it eventually?
No, these items were jotted down here because we have heard several requests repeatedly. So we absolutely want to make it happen, but so far we have not been able to make it happen. But instead, I thought the best way is at least for staff to make a presentation on the background information, like what has happened in terms of review and what kind of knowledge we have on hand at this moment, so that the commission can advise us in the meantime.
Okay, thanks for that, Luke. I guess I would like to, if we can't give them feedback in this meeting, then maybe we will need to find a different way to give them the community input and the input from this team. So,
like I said, I expect to feed input to Cyrus in the next month or two when he comes, presents to us, and given his contacts with AAPS, I would expect him to feed that back to them. But right, it would be much better to have a direct, communication with them in this forum. But I know we're working on that. So in the meantime, in the next month or two, we'll at least have Cyrus, and he communicates with them frequently, as I understand it. So, anyone else? All right. So, Luke, do we need to add the suggested, the things we've been talking about here before we can vote, or can we vote with the understanding that Luke will add those topics to the work plan? Would you be comfortable voting with the understanding, Luke, that the couple additional things you'll add to the list?
Yes, I've taken notes and I will add them.
All right, let's do that then. Oh wait, so this is in the business section, so we should vote on it, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay. All right. So if there are no other comments, and by the way, of course, as I mentioned at the end of every meeting, any agenda topics, please email or talk to us in any format or forum that you want. And this is not the only time to get topics onto the agenda for next year. All right, so can I have a motion to approve the 2025 Transportation Commission work plan as shown with amendments that we've talked about? Moved by Dharma, seconded by
Eric.
Eric. Thank you. All those in favor, please say yes or raise your hand.
Yes.
All those opposed, please say no or raise your hand. The work plan as amended or as will be amended has been approved. Thank you. All right, next up, we have the Transportation Commission meeting schedule for 2025. So Chris, if you wanted to go over the proposed meeting dates.
Yes, not a problem. Can everyone see my screen? Okay. So for 2025, the Transportation Commission will continue to meet online via Zoom. None of the meeting requirements will be changing. It will still be the same exact link. It has been done. It's just been extended to kind of improve some of that efficiency. Now, I went ahead and cross-referenced the third Wednesday of every month with any major holidays. I couldn't find any that would be a conflict of interest. At this time, this is what our schedule for 2025 will look like. January 15th, February 19th, March 19th, April 16th, May 21st, June 18th, July 16th, August 20th, September 17th, October 15th, November 19th, and lastly, December 17th. With that said, I also like to take this opportunity to also encourage participants and members of the public and let them know that accommodations, including sign language, can be asked by reaching out to the city clerk's office, but by calling the number 734-794-6140 or reaching out to them via email at cityclerk@a2gov.org. Now, with that said, I'll open the floor to any conversations to see if there's any conflict of interest or if there's any date. This is moving forward with the assumption that the Transportation Commission will continue to want to meet online via Zoom. If that is not the case, this will be the time to have that conversation.
Any comments on either of those topics, either the individual meeting dates or the topic of meeting in Zoom or in person? Pete?
I guess I'd like to propose that we move the December meeting to December 10 to get a little further away from the break time that most people take at the end of December.
Luke can chime in, but I know that the third Wednesday rule is something that allows us to not conflict with other boards and commissions for the sake of CPN and also commission or council members. Would that require more investigation, Luke, as to whether that would even be feasible?
So I can chime in on that. It would require, to my knowledge, the only available slot that is the center of city, the center of commons time, which was the first Thursday of every month. So any change would kind of have to fall in line. Since city council and all their commissions do already have time selected. So I can definitely get back to the commission about changing the December date, but At this time, off the top of my head, if we wanted to change it to December, would have to be we would have to be looking at that first Thursday of the month.
Well, I would be okay bringing this back. I mean, if you could come back in January and say what you've seen, or let us know what your investigation into other dates says, then another.
I think there's a path to amend the meeting schedule. I think we should still vote on it. You know, this month. I mean, we have a meeting coming up in January.
Let's vote on what we see on the screen, but if we could take a look at other options and bring it back in January.
Okay.
That would be okay.
And Pete, yeah, like when you're talking, it sounds fine, but when you're not talking, it's like this, yeah, weird. Anyway, any other comments about the meeting dates or Zoom versus in person? If anyone had any thoughts, Pete, your hand's still raised. Do you have any other thoughts? All right. You know, I was gonna maybe mention it at the commissioner communications at the end, but I think it's a fine time now to just, you know, throw out the, like Chris said, if there's a desire to do any in-person meeting or meetings, you know, as I understand it, I think there are a handful of boards or commissions that are meeting in person. Most are not. But you know, if there's strong feelings either way, then you know, please let us know. You know, we can talk about it, whether it's periodic or one-off or whatever. Kate?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think in general, the Zoom is really helpful with, childcare issues and everything else, but at least like one in-person meeting a year might be nice. Most of you I've never met in person. So I would welcome that opportunity and I think with the Open Meetings Act, it probably needs to be a meeting for us all to meet in person. So I would appreciate that opportunity, but agree that, or at least for me, generally speaking, Zoom is preferred.
All right, Eric?
Yeah, I'll just echo what Kate said. I could definitely make one in-person meeting if it was planned well in advance, but otherwise, childcare particularly, most of them need to be on Zoom for me.
Thank you. Yeah, I think I'm in the same boat. You know, I would like to meet a lot of people. I don't know that I would want to move it to in person for every meeting by any stretch personally, but you know, I also wouldn't be opposed to maybe having a meeting here or there be in person. Like Eric said, if it's planned well in advance, you know, maybe a summer meeting or something when the weather's nicer, it's light out later, and you know, maybe we can think about that for one of our late spring or summer meetings, if there's an appetite. And if anyone has any thoughts to, you know, don't want to share them now, or they think of something, just email us, you know, at any time. If you're like, no, that just won't work for me, then, you know, please let it be known. But, you know, Luke, we can talk offline maybe, and you know, CTN would have to be involved, I assume, and everything. So maybe it just won't work to do it one time, but I think it would be maybe a good goal for the year. All right. Any other comments? All right. Can I have a motion to approve the 2025 Transportation Commission meeting schedule as shown? Anyone want to move to vote on it? All right.
I'll move.
Moved by Eric, seconded by Larry. All those in favor, please say yes or raise your hand.
Yes.
All those opposed, please say no or raise your hand. All right, the meeting schedule is approved. All right, next up, information and discussion. First topic is the Safe Streets for All project update. The city received a Safe Streets for All grant to deploy speed management measures, quick build bicycle facilities, and technology to support the evaluation of near miss events. So Suzanne Flowers is here. She'll provide a quick update to the project, and a more detailed update, I think, is scheduled for early next year.
That is all correct.
All right, so Suzanne, floor is yours. Thank you.
All right. Give me just a moment so I can make sure I have the correct slide deck up. And if I could get a verbal confirmation from someone that you are seeing my slides, and it starts with Safe Streets for All project update.
Yep, looks good.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for having me this evening. Like the title says, I am going to provide a small update and obviously answer some questions regarding our Safe Streets for All federal grant. Again, my name is Suzanne Flowers. I'm the Transportation Program Manager and the Safe Streets Project Lead. I am also working with Cyrus Nahidi and Luke Liu in the implementation of this project for the city staff side. So as a little background, we did receive a $3.8 million federal grant, of which $950,000 we needed to bring in the form of local match dollars. And that local match is coming from our climate millage funds. This is a city-wide grant. So we would be looking at any location citywide. And the main elements, as we had already discussed, are quick build, speed management, and our near miss video analytics system. And our time frame is 4 years. That was from the start and execution of the grant agreement. We have already done 1 year's worth of work. I'm going to start with the near miss video analytics system. I believe Luke had talked a little bit earlier about where we are in our request for proposals process. Our questions are actually due this week to be posted on the website, and then full proposals are due back to the city on January the 7th. And we're anticipating council action on the professional services agreement in the March-April 2025 timeframe. To give you a little bit more of a scope of work, I have bulleted items on the slide, but I'd like to also read those for anyone who may not have their screen on or is doing something else. So the most important thing that we want to use are our existing grid smart cameras to capture these near miss events and actual crashes at our existing intersections. And we have approximately 61 grid smart camera locations across the city. We'll use this data to evaluate the potential safety improvements and identify patterns at intersections where a crash is known. We have some of those behavior details and analysis done, but we don't have that capability on something that's actually not reported. We will be doing data collection for 2 years. And when I say data collection, this will be video detection. The city will not own the video. We will not have access to that video. It will only be housed offsite and by the selected vendor. And so I just really want to make that very, very clear that were many questions that we had from the RFP on that so far. And I would like to then shift to our status of our grant coordinator. So we are working with a consulting team. Our main grant coordinator is Sam Schwartz. This is a familiar firm to probably many of you. They helped with the development of our transportation master plan, our implementation contract, and they also did help write the grant for our Safe Streets. They partnered with Wade Trim, which is also a very familiar firm doing projects across the city. They'll be working on the construction, design, and data collection for the project. And then they also subcontracted with Smith Group to help with public engagement. The scope of work for our grant coordinator is really all of the elements within the quick build and speed management. I will get to the protected bike lanes and hardened center lines in a minute, but we will be looking at adding additional potential project locations. And the grant coordinator will assist and be that one entity that is helping with the project selection, design, construction, inspection, bid package development, and again, data collection. There were a couple questions in the public comment period that I want to address now because I think it'll be very helpful. Within the slide deck that I have presented tonight, we did have a firm, HRC, working on what we were hoping to have deployed early, protected bike lanes and hardened center lines. When we received the grant, we were informed by our federal highway partners that we could only submit one NEPA evaluation process. And so that is a condition within the grant agreement that we're not able to do construction and make, changes within the road right of way. We can only kind of ask and have that review done one time. And so that delayed us from being able to actually deploy some of these treatments early. Knowing that, we also initially developed this list of hardened center line locations, which is on slide 6, and I'm going to scroll to the next one, and buffered bike lanes, and the understanding that we would actually get to do these ahead of some of the other work. And so to answer one of the questions, why we were only doing some of the protected bike lanes, because we weren't going to do pavement marking work initially as part of this, we're going to call kind of quick build 2.0 process. We've had to pivot since the information provided by Federal Highway, our understanding had changed. Now I can say that with having Sam Schwartz and the other firms working with us, we are going to look at potential pavement marking lane changes, which would allow us to do more protected bike lanes and have those narrow buffers, next to those bike lanes. So again, just as a quick reiteration, we didn't initially have them because pavement marking work is not quick. It does take a lot of time, and we were looking to get these in the ground quickly. We pivoted because we were not able to do 2 separate NEPA submittals. And so now we have to package all of our hardened center line locations with the protected bike lanes, with the entirety of the rest of our quick build and speed management locations. So the hardened center line locations, as of right now, the work that we have been doing with HRC prior to the SS4A grant, we were going to do the protected baller. We're going to have, city posts and some speed humps at Pauline at South Main, Pauline at 7th, Pauline at Stadium, Plymouth at Huron Parkway, Plymouth at Nixon, Plymouth at Traverwood, Plymouth at Barton, 7th at Madison, 7th at Liberty, 7th at Stadium, and Getty's at Arlington. Those are still being planned for. When we look at where we are currently with the current design and selection of work for our buffered bike lanes, there is a much more extensive list that I believe will be added onto. But we were looking at the time, the existing painted buffered bike lanes that were already on the ground. Those locations, for example, along the South Main section, and that was like the Stadium to Scioto Church, there is only a northbound buffer on that bike lane. So because again, we were not going to be doing pavement markings, we would only be adding that layer of protection on that northbound lane. So just quickly, we did have adding protection, the city post in those painted buffered bike lanes from South Main Street, Stadium to Scioto Church, because there is only one northbound lane, South Main from William to Scioto Church. I don't understand the northbound only. I will be following up on that. So thank you for bringing that to my attention. South Main, Ann Arbor Saline to Fieldcrest. Again, there was only a painted buffer. North Maple, Foss to Dexter. 7th from Washington to Scioto Church. Pauline, Stadium to 7th. Scioto Church, Maple to 7th. And then various segments along Plymouth Road, Maiden to Moore, Moore to Maiden to Upland Murphin, and then along Packard, Main to State. There is a capital improvement project moving forward that is going to add that layer of protection as a separate capital project. So we will actually be pulling that segment out of our Safe Streets for All. And when that project is constructed, which is supposed to be in 2026, that work will be done as part of that work, as part of that contract. Some very important but very persnickety milestones of this grant that I am learning all about, like I had already mentioned, is NEPA, and that stands for the National Environmental Policy Act. Again, we could only submit one NEPA compliance document for the entirety of all of the potential grant elements for quick build and speed management. Our submission will be in early January, and the time frame for review per advice that we've received from the the Federal Highway Michigan Division is an estimated 2 to 3 months. And yes, you did hear that right, months. This is not weeks. Following that conclusion of the NEPA document, per again the grant agreement, we will have to amend our grant agreement. This has always been a condition of the grant agreement, and what that does is unlocks the remaining federal funds for us to actually do the construction. If we were to do any of this work beforehand, we at the City of Ann Arbor would be completely on the hook financially for it. Federal Highway would not reimburse us for it. So it is a very important step that we time appropriately and properly to ensure that we do not delay any implementation efforts. Looking at when we get NEPA back, we will immediately submit for our grant agreement amendment, and that was estimated to take approximately 6 months. I am optimistic that maybe these timeframes will be shorter, but I really have no way of knowing that. That is the information that has been provided to me from our federal highway partners. Some next steps in December, this month, December is just going very, very quickly. On the Safe Streets for All project page, which you can just type in the letters SS4A or ask for Safe Streets for All if you have a verbal reader. We do have an information meeting coming up in early January to present to the public. We will have a very short survey and a presentation recording that'll get in a little bit more depth than what I have this evening. Those office hours will be on January the 7th from 6 to 7 p.m. and those will be virtual. That survey will be available through I believe it's now late January, so my slide needed to be updated. And then again, as a reminder, the Sam Schwartz team will come and do a big, full presentation and deep dive to the Transportation Commission, which is built into their contract to do once a year. And that is the end of my slide deck.
Thank you very much.
And I'm sure there are lots of questions, and I am ready to go.
All right, Dharma.
As fast as I can.
Dharma was quick on the draw, so Dharma, you're first.
Absolutely.
Ask the $1 million question, which is, by when do you think that we can actually see things, being installed?
Summer 2026.
Okay. Thank you.
So even if your optimistic hopes come to fruition for the grant amendment, say that happens by June or July, you don't think there'd be time to line up construction for the latter half of next year? Okay.
No.
That's
because I think that's a good question because not only do we have to develop a bid package, but then that bid will have to be advertised per city policies, and then all of the contracting would be going before city council as well. Yeah. So I'm not saying that that is a bad process. I think that is a wonderful process, but we do need to make sure that we follow not only the city policies, but we also have federal procurement policies that we have to adhere to as well. So that does add a little bit in our delay, but that's why hitting some of these important milestones now is so important. And then we can also, while those processes are underway, kind of behind the scenes, we can still work through our public engagement. We can discuss with the community what kind of design options are on the table. And I'm going to tell you, it's not full reconstruction. That's not what we got funded for. So we have to set some reasonable expectations about what can and cannot be done with these grant dollars.
Sure.
Sorry, follow-up question. Does that include the installation? And I understand you can only submit the one NEPA thing, but in terms of installation being 2026, does that include the flex posts?
Yes,
and the
absolutely.
That we, okay. I guess it just continues to be my thing because, as you know, people are constantly using them to short-term park, and we can't even keep up with the enforcement if we wanted to. And I think it's just going to continue to be a problem as long as we make it easy for people to do it.
As a cyclist, I find that very, very frustrating as well. So it is well heard, and I wish we could move up our deadline. And I think the only way that we would be able to move that up is if our grant agreement amendment is done sooner. Right. But again, remember, we do still have construction windows in the state of Michigan. We can't do certain things, like the pavement has to be warm enough for new treatments to actually adhere to, like pavement marking. So if it's too hot, if it's too cold, those conditions have to be just right in order for that to work as well. So that's something that we want to be mindful of, to try to get those treatments out, and also coordinate with existing large scale events such as football games. So we have to make sure that we're cognizant of not causing more potential issues while we have construction crews out as well.
Eric?
My $3.8 million question, not to one up you, Dharma, but what is the likelihood that this funding is actually going to be there given the change in administration? Like, we're looking at a longer timeline now of another year and a half until we actually start spending the money on installation of these hardened center lines and barriers. Is there a danger that we will get through the community engagement and find that we do not actually have this grant any longer?
I cannot, and I'm speculating. There are, I think, a lot of other people around the room, and I'm looking at Matt, who's been in the federal funding game probably much longer than myself. I cannot imagine that would happen, but I'd love it if somebody else would jump in that.
I'll jump in a little bit since Susan name checked me. So I run the transit agency here, and under normal times, incoming executive branches will honor all of the decisions of the previous one. And grants that are in progress, like this one sort of is, it's been awarded, correct, Susan?
Correct.
So usually under normal circumstances, and I mean like going back to 1950, yeah, they just say, look, that stuff was done legitimately. We're not going to change it. We may change the grant program. We may not give out any new awards like that. We may have a different ideological priority. But the ones that are already in progress and awarded, it would be unfair for the federal government to pull the carpet out from the recipients. So that is the tradition, and it's enshrined in various regulations and laws. That said, the incoming administration has said they don't like a lot of that stuff. and there is a risk. I would say it's small. This is not a high priority for the incoming administration from what we can tell. But there is a small risk. I think with this one, this grant's pretty far down the track. Susan, like it sounds like you're well past obligation.
Yes, we've been submitting and receiving reimbursements from the federal government. So that's where my risk feels very, very low.
Yeah, I think this one's almost 100% guaranteed to just continue. Whether or not we'll get another one like this, that's a good question. But I think grants like this are probably fine. That's just my professional opinion.
Thank you, Matt. I really do appreciate that.
Thanks. Any other questions?
Well, a quick follow-up. With all that said, this one, the way it's structured is a little different. It's straddled in between the planning type of award and a deployment award. So Matt mentioned about the obligation. So Suzanne, correct me if I'm wrong. I think our obligation goes by the same portion or cadence as the grant amendment. So we are so far obligated only for the first portion,
which is approximately $1 million.
Yes.
That we have been like, ye shall spend federal dollars and get reimbursed.
Yeah, the bulk of the award has not been obligated.
That is absolutely true.
All right, hopefully that's
time is up
we don't have to cross. Yeah, hopefully we don't have to cross that bridge. All right, any other questions or comments? If not, we'll look forward to another update in the spring, I believe. So thank you very much, though, Suzanne, for bringing that forward and answering all the questions, including the public comment questions. So
thank you.
All right, next up, U of M Transportation Research Institute update. The U of M Transportation Research Institute has been working with the city since 2012 to deploy and test connected vehicle technology and explore various applications, including traffic safety and transit priority. Research results potentially will become available to our day-to-day operations. And so the research team now will provide an update to the ongoing and future projects. So Debbie, welcome. And I think the floor is yours. It looks like you're sharing your screen already.
Yep, I think I need to do one little thing here. I always forget this. I think we're okay. Enable. I don't see where it is. There's a part in here where I can share my video or my audio from my computer because I do have a video, but I don't see it on the screen. So I guess we'll get there when we get there.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. Number one. So good evening, everybody. Thanks so much for having me here. Luke Liu, whom you all know, invited me to talk about our projects that we're deploying or planning on deploying in Ann Arbor from a program manager's perspective. So after much deliberation, I decided to begin with the story of how I got here and why I do what I do. I started my career at Ford Motor Company back in 1987. Yes, I am that old. And to those of you who are thinking, wow, she looks great for her age, I thank you. Anyway, I also did time at General Motors. While at Ford and GM, I mostly worked on engine and transmission control modules. In 2001, I took a big chance in my career and started working at Visteon in safety. We were developing radar and vision-based technologies for advanced driver awareness systems. And that's when I realized that for the first 13 years of my career, I hated my job. I loved working in advanced driver awareness systems. It became my passion. These futuristic technologies were they were going to save lives. I was going to save lives. And now this technology is on almost all new vehicles: blind spot detection, forward collision warning, adaptive cruise control, and more. While working at Visteon, I had the pleasure of working with the University of Michigan Transportation Research Institute on 2 large field operational tests that were proving out this new technology. And in 2011, they asked me to join their team to work on the world's first and largest connected vehicle real-world deployment. And that's how I got here to talk to all of you about my passion for merging technology and transportation to save lives, improve mobility, and improve our carbon footprint. In 2021, nearly 43,000 lives were lost on U.S. roadways. Connected vehicle technology could have prevented at least 80% of the unimpaired crashes. Connected vehicle technology can improve mobility through congestion management applications. It can get people and goods quickly and safely to their destinations. Connected vehicle technology is good for the environment. It reduces our carbon footprint through sustainability applications such as green waving, where vehicles communicate with the infrastructure to determine the best speed to maintain travel through a corridor where the driver wouldn't need to brake or accelerate. I know that Dr. Henry Liu and Dr. James Sayer provided an overview of the projects and technologies back in July, so I'll try to limit any duplication. I also know that they showed this slide in particular, but it's important to this discussion. It's the start of our story, the partnership between the City of Ann Arbor and the University of Michigan. We have been partners with the City of Ann Arbor since 2011, when we first started deploying connected vehicle technology in Ann Arbor for the safety pilot model deployment. During the transition from safety pilot model deployment to today's project, the Ann Arbor Connected Environment 2.0, there's been a lot of background activity in the industry, making the path to deployment very hard. So I'm going to describe the evolution of connected vehicle technology. First, there was DSRC, Dedicated Short Range Communication. It's what's deployed in the safety pilot model deployment and the Ann Arbor Connected Test Environment, so the first 2 projects. Then there was CV2X, Cellular Vehicle to Everything, which is being deployed in the Smart Intersections project and the Ann Arbor Connected Environment 2.0. And then there was the FCC, which I'll get to in a minute. What is dedicated short-range communication? It's like Wi-Fi, but uses dedicated, optimized channel with very low latency. And instead of using a wireless local area network through access points, like we do it with our computer, it requires direct broadcast wireless communication. It's secure and private. In 2016, NHTSA issued a notice of proposed rulemaking that would have required connected vehicle technology on all new vehicles. The rulemaking was based off the data collected during safety pilot model deployment and the subsequent analysis by independent evaluator Volpe. In 2017, GM introduced dedicated short-range communications on their Cadillac CTS. However, the notice of proposed rulemaking for dedicated short-range communications was not enacted because of the new administration that came into office in 2017, Trump's first visit to the White House. This gave rise to the introduction of Cellular Vehicle to Everything, or CV2X. Please remember that acronym because I'm going to be using it a lot, CV2X, and I may occasionally throw in DSRC when I forget to spell it. So CV2X is similar to dedicated short-range communications in that it also requires direct device-to-device communication. However, CV2X uses what is called the cellular PC5 side link. That's not really the important part. It uses direct communication for safety critical applications. That's the important part. CV2X also brings in network communications for non-time sensitive applications. It's known as the UU link, which utilizes a cell tower, just like when you make a call on your cell phone. So that brings us to the FCC. In 1999, the FCC allocated 75 megahertz to be used for intelligent transportation services. It's commonly referred to as the safety spectrum or the 5.9 gigahertz band. The main point is that it's dedicated. No one else can broadcast in the band. Because of the uncertainty without a mandate, none of the automobile manufacturers deployed this technology. GM discontinued the DSRC on their CTS. And as time passed, there's limited use of the safety spectrum. The FCC issued their first report and order in October of 2020. The order took away 45 megahertz from the band and left essentially one band or one channel for C-V2X. It's highly unusual for the FCC to mandate a specific technology, but they did. In the second report and order that was issued last month, all dedicated short-range communication units must cease to operate by 2026. Circling back to the Ann Arbor deployments, USDOT, the University of Michigan, and program partners like the City of Ann Arbor have invested over $80 million in the connected infrastructure in Ann Arbor. Together, we are making Ann Arbor a model for national deployment. What is done here will be duplicated across the country. We are part of the movement. We are part of USDOT's national deployment plan. We have been called to action. And I'm very proud of the work that we're doing, and I know that it will have an impact. It is why I work tirelessly to bring connected vehicle technology to market. After all, we all have a transportation story. My story is that I was in an accident several years ago that 100% could have been avoided with connected vehicle technology. I was turning left, and traffic was backed up at the light. So where I was turning, there was 2 lanes of traffic, and then there was this third lane, which was the right turn lane for them. So I'm trying to go across, but I can't see that third lane. So 2 cars stopped and left room for me to go through, but I got hit by that car in the right turn lane. And he could have been doing 45 miles an hour the way it felt. I hit my knee on the bolster, and it hurts me till today. And I will never be able to kneel again. And in the grand scheme of things, this was relatively minor. I have a few more stories to share. These are some pictures of an accident that my daughter's 2 friends were in during their senior year of high school, which is about 3 years ago. They were on the Ohio Turnpike between Cleveland and Toledo. After the accident, one was unconscious, and her friend thought or feared she was dead. She sustained a head injury. Oh, wait, sorry. The jaws of life had to pull both of them out. One was airlifted to the University of Michigan Hospital. And the one girl, she sustained a head injury, left broken collarbone, broken teeth, broken left hand, whiplash, broken left jaw, broken right arm. Her face had hundreds of cuts from the glass. She was hospitalized for 8 weeks. This is a picture of her car, and this is a picture of the backup that the accident caused. I counted about 10 vehicles involved in the accident. This accident that my daughter's friends were in could have been avoided with connected vehicle technology. Today's sensors cannot reliably detect and interpret what's happening on the road far ahead in bad weather. We need connected vehicle technology to do that. Okay, so I'm going to show you a video. It's very graphic and very disturbing, so you may want to look away or mute your audio. This is another example where connected vehicle technology could avoid an accident. This example is a massive chain reaction accident that occurred on I-94 near Galesburg in Kalamazoo County. Back in 2015, we had a really bad snowstorm. It was 16 degrees Fahrenheit outside, 0 degrees with the wind chill. It was blustery and snowy. Visibility was low. The road was icy. One vehicle hit another, then another, then another. 193 vehicles in total were involved. 21 people were hospitalized. Miraculously, only 1 died. Local authorities used any bus they could get their hands on to go to the crash site to rescue the stranded travelers, all the while stopping their local bus service. The freeway was shut down for 2 days. Today's sensors cannot help in these situations, but connected vehicle technology can. That's why it's so important to get connected vehicle technology on the road. The bottom line is that connected vehicle technology creates greater situational awareness. It exchanges information between vehicles, between bicyclists, between pedestrians, and between the infrastructure. You know, when Lauren was talking earlier about the bicyclists, I have a solution for that. Connected vehicle technology. I always say connected vehicle technology is the best invention since sliced bread. Today's sensors have a limited field of view and range. Connected vehicle technology has much longer range, 300 meters with high accuracy. where a radar sensor is about 75 meters. You can go 150, but it doesn't have really good accuracy at that point. It also has a narrow field of view. I like to say that connected vehicles can see around corners. So instead of a beam, it's more like a cloud encompassing a much larger area. We can, sorry, I lost my train of thought. Let's see, we can now connect vehicles, transit, infrastructure, vulnerable road users, wireless devices, and other sensors. For instance, we can use specific messages to transmit the location of pedestrians to connected vehicles using the information from a camera at an intersection. Really, that describes what we're doing in the Smart Intersections project. Now let's get to some specifics about the Ann Arbor Connected Environment 2.0. We aim to be the national reference for cellular vehicle-to-everything technology, setting the benchmark for commercial large-scale adoption and establishing a trusted, reliable infrastructure network. This is in alignment with many US DOT goals in general and for ATTAIN. So ATTAIN is the grant that the federal grant that this project falls under. And for ATTAIN, US DOT wants to invest in advanced V2X technologies. They want to retrofit the dedicated short-range communication devices like we had in Ann Arbor with cellular V2X. They want to reduce the number and severity of traffic crashes by increasing safety. They want to accelerate the deployment of V2X, and they want knowledge transfer from a deployment like ours to others in this space. This past August, US DOT issued their V2X deployment plan titled Saving Lives with Connectivity, a plan to accelerate V2X deployment. The Ann Arbor Connected Environment 2.0 supports this plan. In the short term, 2024 to 2028, US DOT envisions 12 interoperable cybersecure deployments, and by 2036, they envision 50 of these citywide deployments. That is what the Ann Arbor Connected Environment is, and why it's so important, and frankly, why I'm so passionate and excited about it. My vision is that we live in a world where we ask, can you imagine a car without connected vehicle technology? Much like we would say about a car without seat belts. The Ann Arbor Connected Environment is a 3-year, nearly $13 million project. At a high level, we will replace the dedicated short-range communication devices in the Ann Arbor infrastructure with cellular V2X equipment, equip at least 100 vehicles with C-V2X radios, and leverage the existing efforts, specifically the Smart Intersection project, by taking advantage of the radio testing and development so that we're not starting from ground zero. We've already installed C-V2X at 21 intersections through the Smart Intersections project. The infrastructure is being returned to its former glory. Back in the Ann Arbor Connected Vehicle Test Environment days, we had a 75 roadside unit footprint. And so we are going to have 75 roadside units by the end of the Ann Arbor Connected Environment 2.0 project. And some of those RSUs will be located to support the city's upcoming projects like the dedicated bus lane on State and Williams. Okay, I've totally lost my place. Here we go. So this team will incorporate work from 5G Automotive Association, the Society of Automotive Engineers, Utah, and the Security Credential Management System Manager to establish a verified state-of-the-art environment for certified vehicle and infrastructure messages. Utah has a SMART grant where they have been testing out some of the certification processes that we will need for this project. Auto manufacturers and others will be able to use the environment to test pre-production connected vehicle safety, mobility, sustainability, and automated applications. The auto manufacturers and Tier 1 suppliers will be bringing their vehicles to Ann Arbor for testing in the real world. This supports the US DOT deployment plan by providing a critical path to commercialization. Another way that we're going to support commercialization is through heat map testing with auto manufacturers to verify their application performance. Auto manufacturers are developing what we call day one applications as defined by the 5G Automotive Association. We will equip a fleet of at least 25 vehicles with onboard units, sending what we call a basic safety message. The basic safety message is what makes the communication between vehicles possible. It's defined in the Society of Automotive Engineers industry standards so that all vehicles will understand it. A GM can communicate with a Nissan or any other vehicle. It is non-proprietary format for all to use. The basic safety message contains the vehicle's position, speed, and heading, plus other attributes such as vehicle type, width, and length. During concentrated test periods, these vehicles will be driven on prescribed routes, allowing manufacturers' vehicles to interact with a substantial number of other vehicles. So when they come out just by themselves, they really can't exercise their full systems in a repeatable way. So they need to have some concentrated other vehicles that are equipped. And so that's what we do is we're working with these OEMs. We just had a workshop in November on developing what are the scenarios that they need. And then we'll take that back and say, okay, here's where we do that in Ann Arbor. And we've done this before and it was quite successful. So we did it, I think, during either AACVTE or the operations and maintenance phase. So the heat map testing will follow 3 stages. First, we start at M-City. We'll ensure that the communications between the automakers' vehicles and the fleet vehicles work, that they're interoperable. And then second, we'll test the applications at M-City, so do some of the scenarios that we plan doing on the streets of Ann Arbor. And then lastly, we'll bring that application testing on the streets of Ann Arbor, so in and around Ann Arbor, with the possibility of interacting with deployed infrastructure messages, such as SPAT, which is signal phase and timing, and MAP, which is the geometric description of the intersection. Testing is slated to begin in the fall of 2025, and the testing will be conducted for 1 week each quarter. And I would not be any kind of program manager if I didn't touch upon the schedule. So I'll talk about that just very briefly. We're currently finishing up the requirements development. Early next year, we'll issue an RFP and procure the CVDAX devices. By mid next year, we'll be ready to install and we'll certify the intersections, and once complete, enter the operations and maintenance phase. So I have a few lessons learned. First is interoperability is not just about device level. ITS architecture must be designed around specific IOO architecture and constraints. System engineering matters, technical requirements, use cases, non-functional requirements from the user perspective. And then we have this one, shift left on security. So this was a really big lesson learned for us. Assess the cybersecurity risk management maturity of your team and build in resources to address risk at the outset, not an afterthought. This is a dig on our team for not developing a cybersecurity plan for the Smart Intersection project before we started installing devices on the city network. Sister projects are your friend. I've talked about Utah before. We meet with them regularly. We attend their team meetings because knowledge sharing is especially around friction points and lessons learned are invaluable as national deployments accelerate and converge. Trust is everything. Remember who we're building this for and recognize that market forces and public opinion are key to accelerating adoption, not just technical readiness. So this is our opportunity to shine on a national and international level. We need to solidify and grow our partnership with the City of Ann Arbor. These projects over the last decade are visionary and important. We are leading the way, but we're lacking in a few areas. First, we don't seem to be in alignment with the City of Ann Arbor's comprehensive transportation plan, which frankly is odd. Connected vehicle technology is mentioned, but there aren't any specific actions associated with it. These projects are specific actions, or they could be. So we need to work better with the interim and future transportation manager and public services area administrator and this committee to ensure that we're deploying what is needed in the City of Ann Arbor. I think we can agree that there's a bit of a disconnect between the City of Ann Arbor and the University of Michigan. And I think Luke puts it something like our resources are mismatched. And what I think he really means, and Luke, correct me if I'm wrong, is that we're not solving the problems that the City of Ann Arbor needs to be solved, or we're not solving them in a compatible way where our design may not integrate completely with the city's infrastructure. But we're trying to rectify that. In the fact, for the Ann Arbor Connected Environment 2.0, we will install 2 RSUs, roadside units, to support current projects, or I guess currently planned projects. One at State Street and William for the dedicated bus lane, which was mentioned earlier, and one on Central Campus to reduce traffic congestion at the North University crosswalk, I think, which Luke had mentioned. The bottom line is that we need to do a better job meeting the needs of the city. Deploying this technology cannot be done just to do it. It's not just research. The city needs to use these projects for their benefit. This is a partnership, and we need to work on strengthening that. But we don't always know how to do it. For example, we're finalizing the concept of operations for ACE 2.0. What's the best way to do that? We're looking for ideas. And we need to work together on finding long-term solutions for operations and maintenance. By February of 2027, the federal funding will be expended. What are we going to do after that? Again, we need to work together on this. So if I can boil down this presentation to a few key takeaways, it would be these. 1, we are partners. 2, this is part of a national deployment. And 3, this technology can save lives, increase mobility, and reduce our carbon footprint. But it cannot be deployed for technology's sake. It must be deployed to solve real-world problems in Ann Arbor. And with that, I just wanted to thank everybody for having me here tonight. Feel free to reach out if you'd like to discuss any of this in further detail, especially if you have a good path forward for making sure that we're deploying connected technology and systems to solve real-world problems in the city of Ann Arbor. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Debbie, for bringing all this information to the commission. Learned a lot. There's a lot of exciting work that's going to be happening. So does anyone have questions or comments for Debbie? All right, well, like you said, I think we're looking forward to a closer cooperation with the city, and I think that includes another update to this commission later, summer-ish timeframe. So, I always look forward to these topics with TRI and whether it's Jim Sayers or yourself. I just am very much looking forward to seeing where this heads.
Me too.
Like that. I mean, on one hand, it doesn't feel good to be a guinea pig sometimes, but there are a lot of benefits to it. And hopefully we get to shape how this unfolds across the country.
Yeah. I have to say on the guinea pig thing, this is the first time that there's actually another deployment doing something before us that we can just copy off of them. Because the first 2 projects which spanned, I don't know, what was it, 8 years, they were hard. They were very hard because you're always inventing it and the specifications aren't ready. The industry standards, they're not ready. So you have to guess. And sometimes you don't guess right. But this time it's kind of nice that these tools will be developed and almost off the shelf. And so that there'll be processes developed, which is nice. So I'm kind of enjoying that. But there's still a lot of, when we did the Smart Intersections project, selecting the RSUs was problematic because the specifications weren't ready. And so we're kind of running into that with the new project, the ACE 2, on choosing the suppliers, going, well, do we want the old ones or do we need to pick new ones? So anyway, sorry, just threw my 2 cents in there.
Thank you. Thanks again. And we look forward to seeing you or your colleagues back next year for an update. All right, thank you. All right. Good, moving on. Next up is the 2024 Transportation Commission Annual Report. Staff has already begun work on the annual report, which would be brought back to us in early next year for final approval. But Chris, I think you've got a draft here to walk us through.
Yeah. So essentially, like Brad already said, it is a draft. So
could you maybe zoom in or widen it a little bit so we could see it a little bit?
Yeah, no, of course. Let me.
Thank you.
Is that okay?
Yeah, that's much better. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so this is a working draft. Now, if the commission would like any additional information or anything along those lines, please let me know. But yeah, we're kind of following the same structure that we have in previous years. This is the at a glance. Right now, this data is not including the December. So we currently have 9 voting members with five non-voting members. In 2024, we had 11 meetings with only one cancellation. We passed 20 motions. We've appointed 3 new committee members, and we had 3 informational items and 10 business items, and a total of 72 public communication. Now, this is kind of our introduction. It's still pending the statement from our chair. We have had some transportation commission members leave, and here is where I'm showcasing the former and also the month they left. Okay. Now, as in past years, we're also capturing the motions. Now, in January, we had the chair and vice chair election. We also had the approval of the 2023 annual report, and we also had a motion for the fiscal year of 2025 policy agenda. In February, we had an amendment here. What's it called? We had an amendment on the approval of taking over the trunk line transfer, and we also had in February some major approvals for traffic calming, specifically in Bird Road and Henry Street. Yes, and I'm saying Bird Road is here twice, so I'll make sure to fix that. Now, we also had a recommendation to initiate the trunk line transfer process and postponement of the 2024 street resurfacing presentations. In March, we had the recommendation for the parking removal on Page Avenue. In April, the commission passed no motions. In May, we had the approval of the SPIP. The meeting was canceled due to a lack of quorum. And on July 17th, we had an information session because we did not meet quorum. In August, some of the motions that were passed was a retention of the original bylaws and also the approval of the Pauline parking removal motions passed in 2024. We didn't have a lot of motions, but we did have a significant increase in the amount of informational items. Here, I'm also showcasing all the featured and items in the presentation. Now, one thing I did skip over very briefly is the motions and actions showcased in the report typically are excluding your meeting minutes, just because it happens every meeting, and just to keep the report straight and simple. Now for the feature agenda items, this section will showcase all the files that were presented to the commission at that given month. And it will be available to the public, so anyone that goes on Legistar can just put on the file ID. In the past, we had some conversation about making links to ensure that people could just click on the specific document. Now, my hesitancy to do that is because any change to the city website will make those links obsolete. But if that is something that the commission wants, we can definitely find an avenue to move forward with that, just with the understanding that if the city website changes, or that URL changes, as presentations that were showcased to the commission, with June obviously being an obsession, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Usually this report captures all of the year's modes and all the items that were brought to the commission. Here as an attachment, we also have the Transportation Commission ordinance, with and yeah, that's pretty much it for our report. It's still a draft, and I'll take this opportunity to speak to the commission and see if there's any particular information that you guys would like to include on your report. Um, yes, Dharma.
Thank you for the presentation of this. I was wondering, because I seem to recall in years past, where this report noted the things that were subsequently passed by city council. Just because I think, that's part of the accomplishment too. And I know that you're trying to minimize text, so take or leave that feedback as you like. And then this is just a little bone to pick with one of the things is called the Pauline Parking Removal Project. And, I know that the action that this body took was to vote to approve the removal of the parking, but I don't think calling the project that is accurate or wise. So I think on other items that were like that, it was just called, voted to remove parking along whatever, but it just makes it sound like that's what the project's about. And I know it's not. So much more.
Yeah. Yeah. I can definitely go ahead and update that. Let me just make a note of that. And yeah, perfect. Thank you. Okay. Is there any other? Mhm.
I think Chris, you said that you'll send me, or I'll write up the note from the chair. Do we want to have a second note? Typically in years past for this annual report, the chair wrote something, and then another member would be given the opportunity to write something as well. It's kind of how did the year go? What are your thoughts on the year? What you're looking forward to for the next year? Kind of a free form, a couple paragraphs. So I'll obviously do the chair. We don't really have very many, if any, members that have been here for the year at this point. Pete, you might be the only one left. I know Megan wrote one. I think she wrote the last one, right? Is there anyone else? Pete, would you be up for writing a paragraph or two, your thoughts on how the year went and what we're looking forward to next year, if you had some examples to work from?
I don't think I'm the right person to write that, Brett. Sorry.
Okay. All right. Well, last year we skipped it. So I guess, it's not like in our bylaws that we're mandated to have it. So we'll probably do that again this year then. All right. Chris, sorry to take over. Did you want to do the photo right now?
Yeah. So it's typically every year we take a photo of the commission. Now I'm gonna give everyone just a few seconds to get your cameras on and
Get your filter all set up to do whatever you need to make your filter do.
Okay, we taking the picture in 3, 2, 1. Okay, and sorry to a lot of moving pieces. Just one more on my count. 3, 2, 1. Okay, and I think we are good to go. Sorry about that.
Thank you. All right, so yeah, this will come back in its final form, probably January, I'm expecting. All right, and I think we'll vote on it at that point to release it.
Yes, sir.
Okay, next up, staff report and updates. Luke, want to go through our monthly staff report and updates?
Absolutely. Sharing on the screen this highlighted version of the capital project update file. 2024 street resurfacing project. This is wrapped up. Construction work is substantially complete, and all streets are open to traffic. Miller Avenue project. We did have the kickoff meeting on that, and the construction is anticipated to start in the spring of 2025. There is some overlap. There are 6 RFB, rapid rectangular flashing beacon. Those locations, they're along Miller. They're part of the project, but that portion is funded by the HSIP, Highway Safety Improvement Program Fund. So it's a peer project, but then there's a coordination. The Miller Avenue project is building a portion of the equipment. Then the HSIP funded project will finish by the rest of the equipment installation. Moving on to talking about projects currently in planning and design. South Main Street Sidewalk Gap Project. This project will construct new sidewalk on the east side of South Main Street between Stadium Boulevard and Ann Arbor Saline. There was some delay, and the delay was in easement acquisition. And now we're expecting the construction will be in 2026. For other sidewalk gap projects that are in design for Independence, the anticipated schedule for construction is in 2025. And Barton Drive on the north side of the street from M14 to Breed, the construction will be in 2026. Brockman and Crestland, construction is scheduled for 2026. And the design work is just starting for the Apple and Peter area that's in the Lower Town area. For Dexter Avenue from Maple to Ironwood, the construction is scheduled for 2026. In the current fiscal year for crosswalk improvement, we're looking at installing RRFB at 5 crosswalks. 3 of them are along Stone School at Birch Hollow, Pheasant Run, and Champaign. There's another one at Beeks and North 5th, and the 5th one is at South Church and Chaucer. Washington Bicycle Boulevard. This is in the CIP, and it is also included in the downtown area circulation study. So staff is lining up the work leading to the start of the design for this bicycle boulevard. We anticipate public engagement and design will start in early 2025. And Suzanne already gave the updates for Safe Street for All grant. For next year's miscellaneous utilities project, so these are underground utilities, and sometimes if there's opportunity, we'll include transportation improvement items in them. So for the highlighted portion on Fifth Avenue, there will be an addition of bicycle facilities in the form of contour flow bike lanes. That's going to start from Madison going up to Packard and continue on to William. Currently, we do not have any contour flow bike lane in the city, and this is the first site we're looking to provide that facility. Another area under the same group of project that is near Harding and Wallingford. So this is in a neighborhood just to the immediate west of Tappan Middle School. We did have an online meeting with it's a public meeting with neighbors to talk about proposed intersection modification. We received comments, and there will be an in-person meeting in February of 2025. Moving on to downtown area circulation study. This study is nearing completion. The team is working on drafting the study report. At this point, they finished the first 2 chapters. The whole report is planned to be completed by February of 2025. So coming out of this study, there are 2 groups of recommendations, depending on how close they are to implementation. The first group, near-term implementation, they include traffic signal removal at 2 intersections. One is Ashley and Liberty, and the other one is Liberty and Thompson. Washington Street Bike Boulevard, that's the one we just covered. We're gonna start the design work on that. The study did include quite a few other and larger scale projects, and those are planning in nature for those recommendations. So those recommendations will require further study and engineering design before they can be implemented. Multi-lane street reconfiguration or road diet evaluation. This one we covered earlier as part of the work plan outlook for next year. Proposals are due in the middle of January 2025. State trunk line jurisdiction transfer analysis. This one, I think the administration is drafting correspondence in a formal format to MDOT, and the transfer discussion with MDOT will start with a direct request from the city. Quiet zone study and design. This one, we also talked briefly on this one earlier in this meeting, and the diagnostic study team review is scheduled. There's one more update as earlier this week. I think the date is January 14th. Okay. Streetlight implementation. DTE has so far reported fixing 1,175 streetlights in 2024. For neighborhood traffic calming program, in 2025, we're looking to start and complete the construction for Bird, Henry, and Arella projects. We do have a sizable queue awaiting for evaluation. So city is already starting the evaluation work for Carmel, Brandywine, and Dottie. Okay. Moving on to talking about the section for flashing yellow arrow conversion. The goal is to adjust the traffic signal configuration so that when there is pedestrians or bicyclists activating push button to use a crosswalk, the left turning movement serviced by the flashing arrow for that signal cycle will be canceled, so that from the signal operations perspective, the conflict is removed until the non-motorized user is serviced. Then if there is still enough time, the flashing yellow arrow will start. If there's not, then for that one cycle, the flashing portion or permissive left turning portion for that cycle will be canceled. So the first group are locations where this conversion has been complete, and the second group, or near the bottom of this page on the screen, is where we're still lining up work to make the conversion. So after the preparation of this document, our shop is working on Geddes and Huron Parkway. I believe that intersection has been converted over. So the goal is to minimize the lower list. There are some locations This conversion is not feasible at this time. Like Poly in 7th, when there's no push button, we cannot do the conversion as of yet. We do want to have push buttons to be equipped and installed at the intersection so that the flashing left turn is not being canceled in every single cycle. So that is on the capital project updates. Then,
If I could
yes.
jump in real quick while you're still on this topic, is that the main reason that there is still a second section here? Is it hardware that is missing or needs to be installed, or is it just not getting around to the software change, or are there studies that need to be done?
Thank you. The reason we're actually slowing down a little bit comparing to the pace from previous month. The reason is there are several folds. For the two intersections at Pauline 7th and Glen Fuller, they are remaining here because of the lack of push button at this moment. For some other intersections, that say Brockman Stadium or Barton and Plymouth. Well, Barton Plymouth, there's another reason starting from last weekend about the crash and damage to the railroad cabinet. But anyways, there is another like subgroup in this list that we're awaiting for the vendor to update their firmware. Because this is a really, we can say, either advanced or not very often used feature. It sounds good on paper, and when we're the first group of agencies to really deploy this, and we're uncovering some issues with the firmware related to resurfacing certain movements, and that just breaks up the coordination cycle. So we are waiting for some firmware updates. That's the response from the vendor, so that we can clear most of the candidate locations.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
So did they say when the firmware is due?
We have the alpha version, meaning that's the in the software world, that's the release candidate. So they are being tested on the bench, but they are not safe enough to be deployed in the field.
Okay. Thanks for your continued work on this.
Thank you.
And everyone. Thank you.
All right. For the monthly crash report, if the screen is still visible, in the month of November, we had 6.
Hey, real quick, Luke, before we go off the updates, Kate?
Sorry, I just had a quick question about the MDOT transfer. It said the next step was the city requesting was it requesting the transfer or requesting a conversation? I was just wondering if there was timing on that and if there were any other sort of prerequisites to that request being made.
It is more of a formal process. I think the correspondence has been drafted, and maybe by this time it's already signed. So that's more of the official kickoff action to start the conversation.
Thanks.
Thank you. All right. For the month of November, crash data, we had a total of 6 pedestrian-related crashes. 3 of them resulted in A-level injury, so that's the serious injury, and the 3 others resulted in minor injuries. For bicyclist-involved crashes in the month of November, we had a total of 8. And there were 3 of them resulting in B-level minor injury outcome, and 3 of them resulting in minor or possible injury. That's level C. And 2 more crashes that were property damage only, no injury. So that completes the staff update for this month.
Yes, Pete.
Okay, so looking at the three pedestrian crashes that we had in November, we've got one on Packard, one A-level crash on Packard. And there was another one on that same stretch of Packard in October, 3 days before. Considering everything that's been going on Packard, I feel like, I mean, you have permission to do something here. Like, we need to react to this. We need to look at what quick build strategies we have, or what signs we can implement, or what we can do to try and do something here. I'm really hoping that Lieutenant Sherba is going to be, and the engineering team are going to be looking closely at these serious crashes on Packard, including the one that has happened here in December at Packard and Fernwood, right? Like, I'm assuming that there was a call out for that and that it qualifies for a deep dive analysis. But this, everything that's happening on Packard, and the fact that we're focusing on it and we're still out of control with all of these serious crashes in 1 month. I mean, that needs to be telling us that we need to do something. We need to be hearing that message from it. And I sincerely hope that everyone is hearing that message. So thank you.
Thanks, Pete. Agreed. Lieutenant Sherba, could you confirm whether or not there was a call out for the Packard and Fernwood, right? Fernwood crash a few weeks ago, or maybe a week or two ago. I can't remember.
It was Monday.
Okay.
So to answer Pete's first question on, I share your, I'll say, frustration and concern with this corridor. We just started our extra patrols and concentrated efforts in the safety corridors, Packard being one of them. And we continue to have carpet accidents and serious crashes in that corridor. I know when PD met with engineering for our recap of the November accidents, we did speak of Packard and Brookwood, and it's my understanding that there was potentially a lighting issue that could be improved in that area. I know for sure that the Packard and Brookwood was pedestrian was hit who was not in the crosswalk in hours of darkness, and alcohol was a factor in that as well. Would lighting have prevented it? I don't know. I know that, again, that was something that engineering brought up in our meeting, that was at least on the table at one point, to enhance lighting in that area to potentially provide better illumination for vehicles, for people. You know, it's a heavily populated area with students. It was a weekend night. A lot of times they'll have parties and students will be walking in an intoxicated state and may not make the best decisions. And if they can have safety net, so to speak, with a better lighting in the area, could help potentially have prevented that. As far as the one on Tuesday morning, it was right when our traffic officers came on duty. We have all three of our traffic officers are trained reconstructionists, and they all were dispatched to the scene. So in essence, it was a call out by our definition, and they did do a workup on the accident, and I can give you some details. 71-year-old female was walking from the south side of Packard across the Fernwood, across Packard, in the crosswalk at Fernwood. However, witness indicated that the pedestrian was walking against the walk signal, so the traffic would have had the green light. As the ped entered the crosswalk, an eastbound vehicle did strike her, had significant injuries. She was transported. I did get a report earlier this afternoon that the victim was still living and had some improvement, but they were still concerned about the severity of the injuries. I don't know exactly, but I know that when the officer went to check on her, said injuries were still under. I don't know if it was intensive care, but it was a greater than average care unit for within the hospital. So definitely significant injuries. And I remember when this came out, I sent an email to Susan and to Luke, or Suzanne and Luke, and I said, absolutely not what we're looking for in our corridors. And this, again, Pete, I share your frustration here that we just started our dedicated patrols. I can give you some very basic data. I took a peek at the stats before the meeting tonight, and we're doing about 4 hours per day on average of dedicated patrol. That means an officer is actively looking for traffic violations or doing extra patrols in that corridor. I don't know if that's going to increase as the program gets further along. I'm going to keep an eye on the data and try to tweak things as needed. But that's what I have to report so far. And the data it's very limited in that we really started to kick this off the first part of December. It might have been December 3rd or 4th-ish. And here we are at the 18th. So we're only 2 weeks into it as far as the dedicated efforts. And again, very frustrated when I heard that accident come out right in our smack in the middle of our corridor.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the updates. Luke, is there anything else to talk about before we move on to the liaison reports?
No, this is it. Thank you.
So liaison reports, any commissioners who serve as a liaison to another body or organization are invited now to provide updates if there are any. All right, seeing none, let's move on to commission member communications. If all commissioners are invited to provide any reports or updates if they have anything they'd like to talk about. All right, again, seeing none, oh, sorry, Eric, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to talk because the second public speaker today, Lauren, he's a personal friend of mine, and it shook me up quite a bit this week when he was hit. He called me. I work at the hospital and I cycle that area quite often at Packard, and it really shook me up. And to see a friend of mine hit and injured on a corridor that I see statistics like we're seeing tonight, where we see these numbers and letters designated to, it just really brings back the idea that this isn't like an A-level crash. This is a person whose life is forever altered, right? So that's really what we have to focus on here, is not A-level crashes necessarily, but also think about the people behind them. I had 2 close calls myself this week. I had one where my son was walking home from school, and thankfully at the crosswalk, there's a bump out that was placed there a few years ago, and one car stopped, but the other one didn't. And he recognized that the other car was not going to stop, and he was able to avoid getting hit. But that was scary as a parent to watch that. And tonight I was riding my bike home, and I was in our protected William Street bikeway, and an oncoming car almost hit me turning into an intersection where I had the right of way. And that, it just brings it home. And again, I benefited from our better infrastructure. The car was able to see me before striking me and did an emergency stop. But it really brings home the idea that these kinds of protected infrastructure, they're not a guarantee of safety, but they do increase our safety. Even if we're hit, hopefully the vehicle is going to be hitting us at a much reduce speed. And for corridors like Packard that have zero infrastructure other than paint, we have to start thinking about ways that we can improve them, and leaving them until 2026 because of the problems with spending the grant money, especially on a place like Packard, I don't think should be acceptable. 2026 is a long way off. A lot of people are going to be hurt between now and then. That's all.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? All right. Thanks, Eric. I agree with you wholeheartedly. All right, so monthly call for agenda items. Oh, Pete.
Yeah. Sorry. I would like to, in our next meeting, bring forth a resolution describing to AAPS and reminding them of our community's commitments to our climate goals and our VMT reduction goals and our Vision Zero goals, reminding them of those as they are designing and building their new schools. So I'd like to bring that forth, and with the expectation of passing it on to, hopefully, to City Council for them to approve. So if we could add that as a potential agenda item, we can talk more about it in the next month. Brett?
Yeah, that sounds great. And if there is anything brewing on council, Dharma will let us know, and we can coordinate. That would, it would make a lot of sense to coordinate to make sure that if we pass something along to them, it's something that they want to act on. So, all right, thank you. Any other agenda items that are on anyone's minds? If not, of course, just feel free at any time to email any ideas to us, to any of us. I'd like to hear them. Next month, I think we also have the elections, right, for chair and vice chair, Luke. So keep that in mind. We'll do that. I don't think there's anything else I wanted to bring up. All right, so speaking of the next meeting, it will be held Wednesday, January 15th at 7 p.m. It will also be a virtual meeting like this one. So if there are no objections, we will adjourn our December 18th, 2024 meeting. Any objections? Seeing none, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you. Have a good night.
Everybody, thanks you.
Thank you.